Thank you for joining us. It looks like we've got a good crowd out this evening. It's nice to see everybody. One reminder for the board this evening, we've had some comments about people being able to hear us, and that is an important thing for us, and we're going to do a better job of speaking into the mic, and there's a little bit of idiosyncrasy with us turning our mics off and on, so we're going to do the best we can this evening and try and project voices so that you guys can hear what we're talking about. So welcome everyone. This is our school board meeting, and we're going to start here. And we're going to move to 1.3. Pete, do we have any corrections or changes to the agenda?
None at this time.
This is a meeting of the La Center School District Board of Directors. It is being held in the public, but is not a meeting of the public. To speak at the meeting, contact Tammy Licklider at the district office prior to 4 p.m. to be added to the list of speakers. Public input on agenda items and non-agenda items. For the public comment section of this meeting, the board chair will call upon those who have signed up to speak. The board will listen to your comments and take the input provided under advisement and may or may not comment at this time. Please state your name, resident district when you begin speaking. Once recognized and called upon by the board chair, you are asked to keep your comments to 2 minutes. After public comments, in an effort to keep an orderly meeting and efficiently accomplish the business of the board, during board deliberations, the board chair reserves the right to call on district staff for additional information or clarification. Outside of board meetings, public input is also available by board email and/or phone calls. Contact information for board members is posted on the district website. Now we'll start our public comment section. We've got a lot of people this evening, so we're going to try and move through this as quickly as possible. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you know who's next to speak and who is up after that. And if the person up after that could stage so that we could quickly do the handoff, I'll announce the next person to speak as well, and we'll try and keep it moving as best we can. So. The first person that we have signed up to speak this evening is Gail Bowles. Oh, sorry. And next we've got Eunice Ingermanson. Thank you.
My name is Gail Bowles, and I'm a resident of the center. These are chaotic and stressful times. All the more reason for each of us to set priorities and focus our efforts on the areas that are most important and in our sphere of influence and responsibility. Quoting Peter Rosenkrantz, another way to say this is, we need to stay in our own lane. I have studied the 32-page letter that OSPI sent to you at the end of February, outlining their investigation of the complaint filed in early 2023. You may not agree with me, but I found it comprehensive and logical. I have learned that you plan to appeal OSPI's decision and are seriously considering legal action. I am strongly opposed to the district using any tax dollars or personnel efforts to fight OSPI's decisions. The lane you should be staying in involves educating students and improving test scores, not fighting legal battles. If the La Center community wants to fight OSPI and Washington state laws, they should put their money where their mouth is. An independent community coalition, not the district, should take up the time and money-consuming battle. Repeatedly in these board meetings, you have expressed the importance of being fiscally responsible and had to make some very difficult decisions around budgets. I believe that using funds and personal time to fight OSPI is irresponsible. Just stay in your lane and follow OSPI's rulings and their state law interpretation. Leave the legal battles and their funding to motivated community members, not the district. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Next we've got Eunice Ingermanson, and next up is Shannon Clough.
Hello, board. My name is Eunice Ingermanson.
I'm your neighbor in Battleground. I appreciate that you care about your students' families and work hard to be transparent with them. Now, here is where I think you could use course correction. You direct public schools, publicly funded, not by parents. I mean, not just by parents. Your students are your primary responsibility. Student safety and rights come before the parents' right to know. Get that backwards, and you endanger your students. In 2022, 76% of the 434,000 reported child abuse was done by parents. Your own gender-expansive students told you right here about being outed to their parents by your staff and getting beat up at home as a result. Time to reframe your narrative and fix your gender-inclusive schools policy. Please don't insert yourselves between the gender-expansive students and their parents. Please don't put them at risk by outing them or trying to suppress or prevent their identities or pronouns from your schools. Rather, take time to listen and learn from them and become their best ally and support. Please rewrite policy 3211 and 3211P to really make your schools gender inclusive from K to 12. Make La Center Public Schools a safe and thriving place for all gender identities and expressions. Wouldn't you just love it if you ran into some of your students 10, 20, or 30 years from now and they said to you, "Thank you for saving my life back then." Your support could mean that much to these vulnerable students. Thank you.
Next is Shannon Clark, and then after that would be Aaron Smelzer.
I don't think Shannon's here.
Well, Shannon doesn't seem to be here, so we'll move straight to Aaron, and then after that is Pastor Adrian Strelo.
Aaron Smelzer. I am a La Center parent and taxpayer and the proud granddaughter of a Nazi hunter. As the far right has spent an exponential amount of money on anti-trans campaigns, many of us taxpayers are wondering if this self-proclaimed conservative school board is using our tax dollars to serve the party line over state law. The straw man argument for parental rights is instead the act of stripping away student rights to fair access and personal safety. There are those who would try to convince us that Jesus was a transphobic, gun-toting Proud Boy. They drop Jesus' name after every other sentence. They speak hate in his name. White Christian nationalism says, God made them a boy or a girl, but Christ's true followers just say, God made them, and that's enough. Thank you.
Next is Pastor Adrian Strelo, and after that is Odelia Zuckerman.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am from the Vancouver School District, but I have been asked by residents of the Center to speak in support of our LGBTQIA+ children and the need to support them. As a pastor, I support many people who were not affirmed as children and who as adults have been struggling to heal from those experiences and to find communities where they have full inclusion and affirmation so that they can thrive. It is essential for us to stop that kind of exclusionary practicing for our children. We need to protect them. And so I want to urge the La Center School Board to enact policies that protect our children from bullying and from abuse and exclusion, and support them and affirm them in their identities and in their exploration of who they are. The Jesus that I follow, as you had described, the Jesus that I follow is one who is always breaking down boundaries that humans put up to exclude and divide, and always revealing the depth and breadth of God's love for all people and all creation. Together, we can create safety identity, belonging, and purpose for our students so that they can spend their time figuring out how they are called to make a difference in the world through acts of compassion and justice. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your service.
Next, we have Odelia Zuckerman, and after that, we have Ashley Gia.
Hi, good evening. My name is Odelia Zuckerman. I use she, her pronouns. I work for the YWCA of Clark County. Though I'm not representing the organization today, I come with my experiences as a sexual assault prevention specialist working with high school age students. That means I teach healthy relationships. We talk about consent, boundaries, what it means to feel safe. And we talk about what causes violence in relationships. We talk about so many different things, and it's a really great opportunity for folks to learn. I think that one thing I've talked about with them too is what's happening here in the center with this policy. Students all around the county are frustrated at this, and it's causing harm to people. To go against the OSPI investigation that details the extent of discrimination in your school board is frankly unbelievable. The policy is harmful, and you're causing harm to students every day that it doesn't change. I don't know how to undergird that point enough. This policy is harmful and it will harm students, and it already has. And this just continues to actively cause harm again and again. You can battle this legally however you want with taxpayer dollars. That's not going to change the harm that's being caused. There's still time to change this, right? To stop the legal battle, to accept the investigation. This policy was discriminatory. It's in all of your hands to stop causing harm to students. Been here for years talking about this. Your community has been asking you for this. It's time for this to stop.
Next, we have Ashley Gia, and after that, we have Brittany Lassanier.
Hello, my name is Ashley. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a parent, and I also teach healthy relationships to middle school age youth. I have concerns regarding your gender school policy. The first concern is not allowing teachers to ask students their pronouns. In a school setting, protective factors refer to elements or strategies to promote the well-being, safety, and success of students. Examples of protective factors include having caring and supportive teachers, access to mental health support, and an environment that encourages inclusivity. Using pronouns in schools is considered a protective factor because it creates an environment of respect and safety for all students, particularly those who are gender diverse, trans, or non-binary. According to the Trevor Project in 2023, this is a quote, LGBTQ middle and high school students with access to at least one school-related protective factor had 26% lower odds of attempting suicide in the past year. As we can see, pronoun use is a step to make sure all students feel welcome and affirmed. Another concern I have regarding your gender school policy is having students share or disclose their pronouns or name that will result in the school telling their families without consent. We can't assume that every youth's gender identity is accepted by their family. There are youth who do not have supportive families, and this disclosure can cause harm and even put a student in danger. Gender identity is a personal matter, and the decision to share or disclose it should be made by the student themselves. This is important for all students' sense of safety and well-being. I would like to thank the board to consider amending this policy, and thank you for taking the time to hear my concerns.
Next, we have Brittany Lassanier, and after that, we have Aiden Bird.
Good evening. My name is Brittany Lassane, and I am a parent at the Center School District. I am speaking today because I deeply care about creating a school environment where all students feel safe, supported, and able to learn. That's something I believe we all want, regardless of our political views. I'm concerned about the district's continued defense of Policy 3211P and its decision to appeal the findings of OSPI. OSPI found that this policy discriminates against students based on gender identity and violates Washington state law. That's not just a moral issue, it's a legal and financial liability for the district. Last year, the district said it couldn't afford to fund transitional kindergarten for 17 students due to a $75,000 shortfall. But now there are funds available to hire legal counsel and fight a ruling that would protect students from harm. As a parent and a taxpayer, that doesn't make sense. We should be prioritizing resources for students, not courtrooms. Policies that cause students to fear being outed to their families or to hide who they are don't protect anyone. They create fear and silence, not trust or safety. No teacher should be punished for simply asking students what name or pronouns they want to use. That's basic respect and good teaching. I know this board values family involvement, and so do I. But involvement shouldn't come at the cost of student safety or dignity. We can both protect students and keep families engaged. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. What kind of message are we sending when we say we don't have money for early learning, but we're willing to spend thousands fighting a ruling that tells us how to treat kids with basic decency? This is not about politics, it's about people. I respectfully urge you to reconsider the appeal, revise the policy, and bring our district into alignment with the law and with the values of safety, fiscal responsibility, and respect for all students. Thank you.
Next, we have Aidan Bird, and after that, we have Ben Pike.
Hello, my name is Aidan, and I used to go to school in this district, and my mother owns property in this area. I'm 14, and I'm here because I care about the students who still go here. When you're a kid, you don't just get to choose who you are. You don't get to pick your personality, what you're good at, or the challenges you face. You grow up and figure things out along the way. And a lot of kids are bullied for who they are. Life is difficult enough without feeling like the adults in charge are working against you. Currently, this district has a policy that forces students to come out to their parents even if they're not ready, but not every parent is safe. Some kids get hurt, kicked out, or worse, just for being honest about who they are. School is supposed to be a place where we feel safe, not a place where we're put in danger. The Washington State Superintendent's Office has already said that this policy is classified as a case of discrimination, but instead of fixing the problem, the district is spending money on lawyers to fight that decision. And this is the same district that said they didn't have enough money for important things like transitional kindergarten. But somehow there's money to make life harder for students who are just trying to be themselves. And then there was that one time when you told my mother that there was not enough money for a one-on-one aid for my brother when it was needed. I hope the people in charge listen. You don't choose who kids are, but you can choose whether this district is a safe place for them. Thank you.
Next, we have Ben Pike.
Members of the board, Superintendent Rosenkrantz, I stand here before you as a transgender American who lives every day in that small portion of the population referred to in one of the previous directives on pronouns. I'm here tonight as a trans woman and a parent of a middle schooler, and can unequivocally state that the policy put forth by this body will put trans youth at risk. Vague is a term that has been used to describe the document, and ambiguous guidance in an area that can directly impact a child's safety is irresponsible. Superintendent Rosenkrantz likened calling home to share that a student is asking to be referred to with different pronouns as no different than asking for permission to use sunscreen or notify a parent that their student was tardy. This is absurd, given you all know the rates of suicide and self-harm you've reviewed on this board before. All of you are mandatory reporters, which means you're legally obligated to report suspected child abuse or neglect. And it takes little imagination to understand that such news as a change to pronouns could potentially lead to being mistreated. I want to be clear, I'm not saying that the mistreatment is a foregone conclusion. Rather, based again on the data for trans youth, I submit that you are ethically bound to do the due diligence before just calling home. If after you talked to that tardy student, you found out what was going on at home, and you thought that he was at risk, would you still make that call without adjusting for the context? I don't think so. As an adult transgender woman in the United States, I'm vulnerable on many fronts, but I'm an adult. I can't really explain how it feels to be purposely misgendered or bullied just because I exist. I can't imagine going through the same thing as a child who is dependent on all of the adults in their life. We owe it to our kids, you owe it to the kids in your charge, to not pick and choose what part of their life you're going to be a part of. based on the current political diversion of focusing on 0.5% of the
Thank
country's
you.
population.
Thank you. Next we have Mallory Flower, and after that we have Andrea Lewis.
Hi, I'm Mallory Blogger, and I am a district parent with a child in the district. Craig, Amanda, Dory, Sam is not here, but Eric, you are the ones here who are in charge of how my tax money is spent on the education of my child and all others in the district. And this idea of spending even a penny of it on a legal fight or a fine after flouting state law is not going to work for me. This policy, which you've been directed by OSPI after a very thorough investigation to bring into compliance, is currently harmful. It has harmed children. It has harmed children I know. And your perceived lack of willingness to stay in your lane and support our amazing teachers and our paraprofessionals in educating these kids properly in reading, math, science, history, and the arts. Your perceived insistence on focusing on external genitalia, which, what a violation of rights, rather than whether kids are learning, thriving, empowered, and safe is going to cause the voters in my household, which is a formally dependable yes vote on the levy, to seriously question the wisdom of that in the future. This makes me really angry because I love my tax dollars going back into the community, but it can't happen at the expense of queer and gender expansive students. The fact I've spoken to more than a handful of district parents who wanted to speak up to you about this today, but are too concerned that their children's education and their experience in the district might be collateral damage of being direct with you, breaks my heart. Having to stand up here with this level of ire over the presence or absence of basic civil rights breaks my heart. I'm trying to teach my kid to read. I'm trying to teach him to socialize properly, as the principals of the elementary school know. I'm trying to teach him to be a kind human, and this board shouldn't be what's standing in the way of that in my headspace. Zero headspace should be taken up deciding whether to make a whole thing out of a kid wanting to use a pronoun that's different than Skyward. Aren't you tired? Aren't you tired of this?
Thank you. Next we have Andrea Lewis, and after that we have Heather Jones.
My name is Andrea Lewis, and I'm a resident of Camas, Washington. I graduated from La Center nearly a decade ago. When the district passed 3211P, they effectively implemented a don't ask, don't tell policy that discriminates against genderqueer students in two critical ways. One, it requires teachers and admin to report any questioning or changes in a student's gender identity to their parents. And two, it prohibits teachers from discussing 3211 school policy protections in the classroom, which violates state law. After 3211P was passed, I went to every school board meeting for nearly a year. I listened to those who voiced their support for the policy, and not once did I hear a parent say the policy specifically helped support their trans student better. That's because the policy never intended to do that. The policy was designed to silence and control. It was upstairs in Miss Kathy Bound's 4th period AP government class that I learned about the landmark Supreme Court case, New Jersey versus TLO. Her passion inspired me to study political science. The school lost one of the finest educators I have ever known the day she walked out that door. This year will mark the 40th anniversary of the historic Supreme Court decision, New Jersey versus TLO. The Supreme Court held that school children have legitimate expectations of privacy that should only be compromised where there are reasonable grounds for suspecting that the student has violated or is violating either the law or the rules of the school, and not excessively intrusive in light of the student's age and sex. Being genderqueer is not a student infraction, nor can it be, because gender expression or identity are explicitly protected by the Washington state law against discrimination. But this school board has not shown any interest in complying with the law or the guidelines mandated by Washington Office of Superintendent. Instead, this administration has gone to war with its genderqueer students by insisting that their identity is a danger to themselves and those around them. During our conversation 2 years ago, I asked Superintendent Peter Rosenkrantz if teachers were allowed to inform students of their rights and protections under the policy, and he stated they were not. This bad faith censorship of student rights is really about intentionally withholding those rights because the school administration does not intend to abide by the laws that protect them. Students should be aware and understand the rules and guidelines they are bound to follow.
Thank you. Next we have Heather Jones. And after Heather we have Joseph Fowler.
My name is Heather Jolma. I use she, her pronouns. We live in La Center, and both of my sons have gone to this school. I think about the kids who go to this school and when they leave. And the nursing program at Clark College these students will have a transgender professor. When you work at a hospital, when you work in law enforcement, and these are just immediate experiences for myself, you will be working with transgender people, you will be working with people who have transgender children, you will be working with a wide range of people who experience themselves in a way that you might not experience yourself. So from my perspective, you're setting our kids up really for failure with these policies. That's like not even including the law, but to launch our children in a way where they're going to be successful in the world, we need to be open to accepting children for who they are. Another experience that's immediate for me, when people get diagnosed with cancer, they often fall into two different categories. So the first category are people who use their resources, people who are able to sort of digest their diagnosis, people who go to their treatments, people who ask questions about treatments, people who ask their friends who had cancer how they functioned. And there's another group of people who sometimes even don't accept their diagnosis. And those people tend to fare much worse than people who learn about their diagnosis. And I'm hoping that we can kind of look at this in a way, this is an institution of education. Your job is to teach our children to love learning, how to learn, asking questions, getting to know who they are. So it seems weird to me that silencing a certain group, a tiny group of your population makes sense at all. You're not doing your job. You're not teaching the children. You're not getting them ready for the real world with this policy. Thank you.
Next we have
Hello. My name is Joseph Plogger. I'm a resident at the center. I have a child in the school district, and I'm a former registered Republican. It has come to my attention, like sounds like a lot of other people here as well, that this school board might intend to fight the Washington state policy that is intended to keep these students safe, including LGBTQ plus students, using taxpayer money. The audacity of planning to spend our taxpayer money on a politically motivated legal battle with the state of Washington, that makes me feel pretty angry. A legal battle that has nothing to do with improving the students' lives or creating a more effective learning environment. Quite the opposite. It is a battle for a policy that specifically targets and makes them to feel unsafe, the students who don't align with your political and religious ideology. If this is how you're going to steward our tax money, you can forget about asking the center residents in the future for further funding when that opportunity arises. And you can also plan to look for new jobs when local elections come up. Thank you.
Next, we have Dulcie Niemi, and after that, we have Reverend April Hall.
Hi, my name is Dulcie Niemi. I've lived in the center since 2012, and I have a third and a fifth grader. I spoke to the board about this policy policy 3211 nearly 2 years ago, but I know some of these are new faces, so I am back again. I just want to share my concern very specifically about the safety component. This is a topic I have a long and deep understanding with, as I am a professional guardian ad litem. I've worked in social services with children for almost 20 years. So I'm appointed by the court to represent the best interests of children. So I see firsthand the devastating consequences of unsafe home environments. I've witnessed the impact of emotional and physical abuse, and I know how fear can silence a child. If you have not witnessed that, it is terrible. When you know a child is in a place where they should be running from, but they want to return. Children rarely speak up when they feel unsafe, and this policy could further endanger vulnerable students. Although the policy states that counselors will speak with students before contacting parents, I remain deeply concerned that the children will not be clear about what's going on. While I understand the intent behind the policy is to support students and maintain communication with families, it risks unintentionally outing the non-cisgender students. Children with supportive families are often already out. The ones most at risk are those who fear the backlash and rejection, and disclosing their gender identity at home can lead to emotional and or physical harm and even homelessness. I recognize that the likelihood is small that an outed child may be harmed by a parent, but even if it's just one student, why would we take any measure not to protect them? My concern is that by continuing a conservative culture in the district...
Thank you. Next we have Representative Hall. And after that we have Al.
Hi, I'm Reverend April Hall. I come from the Battleground School District. I would like to address the issue of the gender identity discrimination. I could stand here all night and cite biblical passages here or there for or against, but I choose not to. I choose to acknowledge that God's creation is good. We are humans, and we are good as well. We are a part of God. God is not limited to our human knowledge, but transcends boundaries in ways that we could never even think of. That's the kind of God that I choose to love. To suggest that we do not include gender diversity into our school systems is to fall away from God's love and care for all of creation, even human beings. How can we justify such judgment and hate for creating a welcoming and loving space for every student, no matter who they are? Instead, the school system should affirm their worth and dignity, as you ask every student to do to you on a daily basis. As an LGBTQ pastor living in a very conservative southern state of Virginia and moving here, after 36 years, I finally found safety. Unless you've been that kid, you do not know what that is like.
Hi, my name is Al Phillip. I started school here in 1957. I graduated in 1969. I just want to do a shout out. You know, who here knows what March 29th is? Oh, I told you.
Your birthday?
No. Okay, March 29th, it marks the National Vietnam War Veterans Day. On this day, in 1973, the last combat troops left Vietnam. And, you know, I just want to put a shout out. I graduated with 33 people. 8 of those people served in the armed forces during that period. And I just want to give a shout out to those people. Al Phillip. Oh, good. Bill Marshall. Robert Niblett. Dave Rancier. Greg Robinson. Don Taylor. Gary Tryon. And Dennis Tyrell. Thank you. God bless America.
Okay, that concludes our public comment section of the meeting this evening. We now